I was just good. We good? This is the, this is the Little Rock Planning Commission meeting from March 10th. We are waiting currently for all the commissioners to log on. We should have 8, is that correct? I think we have 5 right now, so we don't have a quorum just quite yet. Okay, we can go. If y'all are ready, we can go, correct? Yep. Okay, we have 7 commissioners online, according to Mr. Malone. Thank y'all all for logging in. It was a little bit different than usual, but with that said, we will bring the meeting to order. May I have a motion for approval of the previous meetings?
Need to roll call first.
Thank you, sorry, I jumped ahead.
Roll call, Bedden.
Here.
Brooks. Hart.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Hodge. Latour.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
Thomas. Vickers.
Present.
Vogel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now, may we get a motion to approve the minutes from the prior meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes from the prior meetings.
Second.
May we take a roll call vote?
Bedden.
Yes.
Brooks. Hart.
Yes.
Haynes.
Yes.
Hodge. Latour.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Thomas. Vickers.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Minutes have been approved.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may, for a minute, since
Yes.
we are at 8 commissioners, I do want to bring to light for everybody that is online that per our bylaws on deferrals, in the event that 8 commissioners or less are only in attendance at the hearing, the chair will, or the commissioner will give the applicant an option to be heard or deferred at the applicant's request. And any deferral in this case shall be as from the applicant. So if we do not have 9, then we would make the ones that we're hearing on regular the option of deferring.
Thank you. With that said, I think we'll have a reading of the agenda, and we'll do it much like we did last week. I think we'll read the consent deferrals first as a group. Then we will read the remaining consent approval items one at a time, asking again if any person wants to say that they want to speak about that item, then they will raise their hand. We'll give them a few moments to do so. Mr. Malone will take down their information, and we will come back and put that item on the regular agenda. But with that said, we'll proceed.
All right, we have 4 items on consent deferral. Item A is Z9641, DeSoto PCD at 14616 Baseline Road. The applicant submitted a letter to the staff on February 22nd, 2022, requesting this item be deferred to the April 14th, 2022 agenda. Staff supports the deferral request. Item B, Z2333D Ellis Short-Term Rental, PDC, at 900 West 15th Street. The applicant contacted staff on February 16th, 2022, and requested that the application be deferred to the April 14th, 2022 agenda. Staff supports the deferral request. Item C, S 1884A, Watershed Point North preliminary plat, located approximately 1 mile north of the Cantrell Road and the Divide Parkway intersections. The applicant requested that this application be deferred to the April 14, 2022 agenda. Staff supports the deferral request. Item D, Z 7684B, Parkland Heights Townhomes Conditional Use Permit, 6615 Chinachey Boulevard. The applicant requests that the S application be deferred to the April 14, 2022 agenda. Staff supports the deferral request. That concludes the deferral, consent deferral. Consent approval. Item number 4, Z9658, McLeod Duplex Conditional Use Permit, 3608 Oakwood Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested conditional use permit, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
At this time, if there's anyone in the virtual waiting room who would like to raise their hand to speak against item 4, please do so now. Seeing no one raise their hand, we'll move to the next item.
Item number 5, Z9663, Vogler Accessory Dwelling Conditional Use Permit, 2220 North Arthur Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP to allow an accessory dwelling at 2220 North Arthur Street, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
One second. Little IT reminder, there are a few people who have called in, and if the call-in folks want to raise their hand against an item, they need to hit *3. Correct? So with that said, we've heard the reading of item 5 on the consent approval. If there's anyone in the virtual chat room or on the phone who would like to raise their hand to speak against the item, please do so now. We're not seeing anyone, so we can proceed to item 6.
Item number 6, LU 2022-18-01, Land Use Amendment in Ellis Mountain Planning District from Suburban Office, SO, to Neighborhood Commercial, NC, at 12807 Canis Road. Staff recommends approval of the applicant's request to amend the land use designation at the subject site from Suburban Office, SO, to Neighborhood Commercial, NC.
At this time, if anyone would like to raise their hand against item 6, please do so now. If you are calling in, again, that is *3 if you are against an item. We have 2 who have raised their hands concerning item 6, so we will move that to the regular agenda.
Okay. Item 6.1, Z4468-A, rezoning from O1 to C3 at 12807 Canis Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested C3 zoning.
Again, if there's anybody in the virtual chat room or on the phone who would like to raise their hand against, presuming the same people will. Yes, if you raised your hand, could you please lower your hand unless you are raising your hand again for this item? Okay, we'll move this one to the regular agenda as well. Any other hands raised? Okay, item 7.
Item number 7, LU 2022-18-02, land use amendment in Ellis Mountain Planning District from residential low-density RL to mining M north of 15500 Lawson Road. Staff recommends approval of the applicant's request to amend the land use designation at the subject site from residential low-density RL to mining M.
Having heard the reading of item 7, if there's anyone in the virtual chat or online or on the phone, could you please raise your hand? Okay, there are 2 people who have raised their hands for item 6. We understand that you have raised your hand. Can you please lower so that we will know if those people are also seeking item 7 to be on the regular agenda? There are no hands raised for item 7. Okay?
Items 7.1, Z 8846-B, rezoning from R2 to M, north of 15500 Lawson Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested M zoning.
Again, if there is anyone in the virtual waiting room who would like to raise their hand for item 7.1, please do so now. We're not seeing any hands raised, so we'll move to item 8.
Item number 8, Z 6049-C, C-Store PDC at 3600 Bowman Road. Staff recommends approval of the requested PDC rezoning, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
At this time, if anyone in the virtual chat or on the phone would like to raise their hand against item 8, please do so now. We have several people who have raised their hand against this item, so we will put item 8 on the regular agenda as well. 2, how many raised hands? Just 2? All right. All right.
All right. Item number 9, G-25-229, North Arch Street, street name change to Annie Mcdaniel Abrams Street, North Arch Street, north of West Markham Street. Staff recommends approval of the request to change the name of that portion of North Arch Street, north of West Markham Street, to Annie Mcdaniel Abrams Street.
At this time, if anyone in the virtual chat or on the phone would like to raise their hand against item 9, please do so now. Seeing no one raising their hand, we will conclude the reading of the consent approval. Do we want to take a motion for the approval of the consent approval items?
I move that we approve the consent agenda, including all staff comments and conditions.
Second.
Motion and second. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Benton,
Yes.
Brooks, Hart,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hodge, Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas, Vickers,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Consent agenda has been approved.
Okay, so we are on to the regular agenda. We will have items 6, 6.1, 8, and 2. You want to start with 2, then work our way numerically down the
Yes,
list?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, item number 2 is Z9664, the Pew Bed and Breakfast Special Use Permit at 14212 Chesney Court. The applicant, Michael Pugh, proposes to use a single-family residence at 14212 Chesney Court as an owner-occupied bed and breakfast. The applicant provided the following information regarding the proposed bed and breakfast use of the property. Maximum length of stay will be 14 days. Owner will be present in the dwelling. Number of rooms to be rented is up to 5 bedrooms. Maximum number of occupants per room is 2. No meals will be provided. The existing concrete drive contains 2 access points along Chesney Court and will allow for parking of several vehicles. The applicant notes that parking will be provided for 4 guest vehicles and 1 for the owner located at the front of the residence. The applicant notes additional parking is provided in the 2-car garage located in the front of the residence. The proposed use of the property conforms to Section 36-54E1 of the city's zoning ordinance as adopted by the Board of Directors on September 6, 2005. Staff does not support the requested special use permit to allow the bed and breakfast at 14212 Chesney Court. The residence is located at the center of St. Charles subdivision, which contains only single-family residences. The nearest non-residential property is located approximately 0.5 miles from the site. Staff believes that the proposed occupancy will cause an increase in vehicular and pedestrian traffic and will have an adverse impact on the area. The original bill of assurance for the subdivision states that no property can be used for commercial purposes. Staff recommends denial of the requested special use permit to allow a bed and breakfast at 14212 Chesney Court.
Okay. We have received a lot of information from citizens about this agenda item, so what's customary is we allow the applicant to choose whether or not they want to address their application first or they want to defer to the individuals who want to speak against the item. Is the applicant available? And if so, we have a couple questions for you.
Yes, I'm available.
So, applicant, the first question would be, is since we have fewer than the 9 members, is that correct, Jamie? You will have the option as an applicant to defer your item to a later date. Do you want to defer at this time, or do you want to go ahead with your application?
I would like to speak on it, if I may.
If you speak on it, then we are considering that not a deferred item. So if you would like to speak on it, we are going to hear the item. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what historically has happened and our precedent is we allow 20 minutes per side. So if you would like to start, as the applicant, you have that right, and we will listen to your application at this time, okay?
Can I let them start?
You may defer. I will put you on mute, or Walter will do that, and we'll allow all of the public who is here for item 2 who would like to speak against to raise their hands now. Keep in mind, each side only has 20 minutes. So if there's a large group of people against an item, it would be wise to find a spokesperson or defer time to those or be succinct in what you say. As we wait for all the hands to raise, we will start with the opposition to this application. Yeah, if you're ready to go, Walter, let's start. Who raised their hand first? Keith Richardson. Keith Richardson, are you able to hear us? And
hello, my name's Keith Robinson. So I don't know if you're mixing us up. My name's Keith Robinson.
Keith Robinson, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Keith Robinson. I'm at 14220 Chesney Court. So I'm basically about 2 houses away from Mr. Pugh's house. There are a number of reasons why I'm opposed to permission for the license. One is parking. Another is just the increase in traffic, noise, potential behavior from disruptive behavior from perhaps some of the guests. But I'll begin with parking. Parking, this is a narrow street. It's a cul-de-sac. So our house is situated just right at the bottom of the cul-de-sac, 2 houses away. We already have some problems with parking. If service vehicles come down the road, sometimes they park in front of our mailbox. It's very narrow. If we have visitors or guests, they have to park either in a driveway or along the road. I think with this proposal of a B&B, there could be potentially 4 additional cars. I don't think they can be parked in the driveway. People won't be able to get out. They park in the garage and the driveway, especially if these people are there at the same time. Those people in turn could have guests with additional cars. I think this is going to create a problem for us in terms of parking. I think it'll also create a problem with service vehicles. Sometimes service vehicles, trash pickup and so on come down here. They turn around right down the bottom. Any additional cars down there that are parked up are going to create a problem for any kind of trash pickup, service vehicles, emergency vehicles, and so on. So that's parking. I think it's going to be a real problem. Traffic, I think, is going to be a problem. It's going to be increased. As I've already said, I think we're going to, if there are 4 guests, or at least 4 rooms rented out, maybe 8 guests, and then there are visitors of those guests, this could create a problem. If it's a family reunion or a sporting event or whatever it might be, if it's some kind of large event, gathering, it seems to me the traffic is going to be a problem coming down and going up and down the road. The times that they're going to be coming down, by its nature, a bed and breakfast, people arrive late and leave early, and that's going to be disruptive. For the most part, it's a quiet neighborhood here. Many of us work from home, and I think people leaving late at night, arriving leaving early in the morning and arriving late at night. I think that's going to be quite disruptive. It's going to be noisy, perhaps, as well. Some of us, as I've said, work from home. That's going to change the nature of the neighborhood. So I'll leave it there. Those are my main points. I think the problem with parking, problem with traffic, a concern about additional noise, and a concern as well about guests, additional people staying here who aren't invested in the neighborhood. Who aren't invested in keeping the neighborhood, peaceful and quiet. So I'll let other people speak. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 16 minutes left for the opposition. So, Walter, who's next? Thomas Diaz.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name's Tom Diaz, and along with my wife, Beth Diaz, we've lived in St. Charles for over 20 years. We've lived at our house here on Chesney Court for about 15 years. One of the primary reasons we chose St. Charles is because it's a residential area. And that's something that we feel strongly about maintaining. I have nothing against Mr. Pugh. I don't even know Mr. Pugh. But again, I'm not interested in taking a chance that this would change the dynamics of not only our neighborhood, but in particular our street. As my other neighbor already indicated, this is a cul-de-sac. It's a narrow street, and there are issues with parking already. So again, nothing against Mr. Pugh, but it's just that I do not want to take the chance of the dynamics of my neighborhood changing by allowing a commercial property or commercial business to take place here. So that's pretty much it. I echo what my neighbor has already said, but this is just not something that we would like to happen in our neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Have about 15 minutes left. So who's next? Mary Robinson.
Yes, hello. I have submitted a letter, so I'm willing to give up my time speaking if there's a long queue of people.
There's only 3 more, so.
Okay. Well, I submitted a letter, so presumably you had a look at that, and my husband was the first speaker. So, this is just really a quiet neighborhood street, and a bed and breakfast, and I'm really kind of shocked with the idea of actually having 5 rooms that can be rented out with a maximum of 10 people. I mean, that is just there's just no way that's not going to change the characteristic of this street. If it's fully occupied or even just partially occupied. That's a lot of people coming and going, a lot of cars, a lot of traffic, a lot of noise. I'm just really disappointed thinking about the possibility of our whole street changing its character because of this business that wants to come in and really have a huge impact on the homes that people have, many people have lived here for many, many years. They've invested a lot of their time and energy and to create a nice, pleasant family environment for them and their families. And I'm just really concerned that a commercial business like this with possibly 10 residents at a time is really going to have an immeasurable impact on our neighborhood. And I am opposed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. The next person, Steve Lamb.
Yes, hi, this is Steve. I also just live here in St. Charles for over 10 years now. My concerns is with this is a family environment. There's a lot of children, everything else walking around on the neighborhood. If there's a lot of traffic running in and out here, my concern is for the children that been walk around the neighborhood. I mean, that's a safety issue there. That's the reason why I would like to oppose, and including the first gentleman mentioned of the cul-de-sac is just too small for any additional traffic. That would be it for my concern.
Thank you, sir. I have about 13 minutes left remaining on my stopwatch here. We have the next Suzanne Sage.
Hi, thanks for listening, everybody. I've been a resident from St. Charles about 20 plus years, and some of my concerns are the same. The street is very small and quiet, but in addition to that, we're a large neighborhood. We have 720 homes, but this particular street is located really in the heart of the neighborhood, so the additional traffic is going to affect the rest of the neighborhood as well. So I think the main issue I have is that St. Charles is not, there are no businesses in St. Charles. The closest businesses are on Chanel Parkway. So we are single family, and that's what the residents who live there expect. I echo the concerns about the traffic and parking on such a small street with very low traffic counts to begin with, and then also the safety issues that result from that for pedestrians and families. So thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Brenda Carley.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just want to agree with all the other people that have spoken. I agree with all of the things they've mentioned. We live in a cul-de-sac that backs up to this other cul-de-sac. There's a green belt in between, but we would be able to see and hear the traffic coming and going from that particular residence. And I don't think that we'd enjoy sitting on our deck, watching all that and listening to the people coming and going. And one thing that I can point out, by having lived on a cul-de-sac, that if cars are parked in the way of mailboxes, the post office will not deliver mail to those people. So with all the cars that are going to be there, some of them are going to end up parking in front of a mailbox of somebody else's residence, I'm sure. So that's just another point I wanted to make. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of trash, and, not everybody respects the neighborhood as we all do. And I just can see it becoming a nuisance, actually. And I've written a letter, and I would very strongly oppose approving this. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more hands raised? Okay, applicant, that was the last of the opposition. We will unmute Mr. Pugh. All right, Mr. Pugh, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Okay. It's too easy. This is too easy. Okay, I'm gonna address everybody with the parking. What Keith Robertson mentioned about the parking. He talked about the parties, and he talked about, everybody invested in the neighborhood as far as, keeping the value, all that good stuff up. Well, the news is I live in the neighborhood too. And parking, my parking lot or whatever you want to call it, it got a lot of room. So it says, I'm going to just combine everybody together with Beth Thomas about the issues with the parking. Well, the issues with the parking was before I came and while I'm here. So issue with parking has nothing to do with me. And if you're still having issues with the parking, it has nothing to do with me. That's everybody else in the neighborhood you need to speak to and talk to. Maybe they're doing it on the slide because me coming home, I've had to zigzag because of that. But you'll never see nobody outside on the street at my place because honestly, my place can hold up to 6 to 8 cars and they can get in and out. And that includes my two-car garage. So me blocking traffic, that don't even exist to me. I'm not even worried about that. That doesn't even apply to me. But I'm pretty sure it applies to people, you know, in the neighborhood and next blocks over and things of that nature. They got like, 10 cars on the side of the street down my neighborhood, and they're complaining about my parking when it doesn't even exist for me. That's not even an issue. So that's off the table. The parties, in the special use permit, it permits parties, gatherings, things of that nature like that. So that right there is out the window. But I would suggest, I would think it's a party when it's like 10 to 15 cars all at one person's house. To me, that looks like a party. But they're not messing with me, so I'm not even worried about it. So, yeah, you might want to direct your attention to them personnel, not me. Because, yeah, I don't do the parties, and the special use limits that. It says you can't. So that doesn't even exist. Plus, I live there. So how is that even possible? Exactly my point. Issue of parking. Oh, yes, Mayor Robertson mentioned up to 5 people in noise. Well, she said 5 people there. It says up to. Doesn't mean 5. And she said noise. You assume noise? Right. Okay. It's like everybody seem to be hoping for the worst when 99% of it don't even exist compared to me, because you all didn't take the time to get to know me. Now, the few people that did, well, them probably the people that ain't complaining, because they actually took the time to get to know their neighbors. Not everybody did that. That's your fault, not mine. As far as the children, yes, the children, they won't have no issue with me or people coming to my place because, like I said, I got standards and stipulations. So not any and everybody can come. So that right there doesn't really apply to me. I would be more wary of the children and the pedestrians with people with 10 to 15 cars outside their house. Worry about them, not me. So, and like I said, only up to 4 cars, but 6 to 8 can fit in my driveway. 6, everybody can move in and out with no problem. So, and I got a roundabout. One way in, one out. So that's easy. And Brenda, Carly, yeah, same as other. Susan, small and quiet. And then she said, y'all mentioned about in and out of the community. Well, I work. I go in and out of the community. I don't hear y'all complaining about me. And the people that do come to my place, they sleep at night. They actually sleep over at night. You know, so it can't be noise if everybody's sleeping. And then they get up and go to work early in the morning, like 6 o'clock or 7. But what's the difference? I do it anyway. So I don't see no problem. And that's because nobody's here, so I can do that. So that doesn't even apply. Everything's just, from what I heard, it's just for the worst case assumptions and nothing, to me, nothing realistically, honestly. And that should be everybody's complaint. Like I said, issues been happening already before I even got there. So I'm not even worried about that with the parking, which is the worst. Up to 5 people, noise, you assume noise. If you ain't heard noise already, call the police on me, then that says it all right there. Any complaints on me? Anything? Well, how I act there, that's how everybody else is going to act. They have no choice so they can get out. It's pretty simple. Not a hard concept to grasp. So I treat it how, I live there. I care about that place. Why you think I'm going to be there when they're there? Because I care a lot about the place. But that's all I got to say.
Thank you, applicant.
No problem.
Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
No, Mr. Chairman, this Todd. I don't necessarily have any questions. I was surprised to see this application in St. Charles, one of the biggest single-family neighborhoods in West Little Rock. When I think of a bed and breakfast, I do think of kind of an historic place or a place in an older part of town or a place maybe on the countryside or whatever, I do not think of a cul-de-sac in a neighborhood. So one of the things I would look to apply on this one is, okay, St. Charles is huge. I don't know how many residents there are there, but what if even 1/10 or what if 1/5 of the residents of St. Charles decided to turn their homes into a commercial B&B or something of that nature? That is just, to me, it's just not practical. And so I think there's a good reason why staff is against it, and I'll be voting against it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Would any other commissioners like to ask a question of the applicant or make a comment? Hearing none, I think it would be appropriate for a motion.
I move for the approval of item Z9664, including all staff comments and conditions except the recommendation of the NIL.
Second.
Okay, so everybody who's a commissioner, we will have a roll call vote. If you vote yes, you're voting against staff's approval. If you vote no, you're voting for staff's approval, correct?
If you vote yes, you're voting for the application.
Yes.
And if you vote no, you're voting against the application.
Correct. Thank you for clarifying that. So may we have a roll call vote? The affirmative always gets me.
Benton,
No. No.
Brooks, Hart,
No.
Haynes,
No.
Hodge, Latour,
No.
McDonald,
No.
Thomas, Vickers,
No.
Vogel.
No.
The consensus is no. The motion fails.
Thank you. We will move to item 6. Is the applicant present for item 6?
He's unmuted.
Mr. White?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
This is Joe White. I'm here with two of the applicants, and also Mr. Ashley Colliers, who's the real estate agent. We're here to answer questions. I thought if I could make a couple of comments, and brief comments, and then we reserve our time.
One second. Mr. Collins has a statement.
Chair, if I remind everyone, we are at 8 commissioners, so the first decision that the applicant has to make before we read through it and take any comments is, are they willing to or want to be heard tonight, or are they requesting the deferral since we are at 8 commissioners?
I think we're at 7. Is that correct? 7 only, unfortunately.
8 or less.
Yes. Thank you, Jamie. So, applicant, Mr. White, would y'all like to defer, or would y'all like to continue?
Mr. Chairman, I think we're on a short timeline with our contract, so I think we need to move forward.
Okay. I think you wanted to make a few statements and then defer your time, correct?
Well, staff needs to make their presentation before we go to the applicant.
Yes. Okay. Staff, you want to do your reading?
Mr. Chair, this Walter Malone from staff. I'll read the land use plan item, which is number 6, and then Mr. Price will read item 6.1, since they're related to each other. One's a land use plan amendment, one's a zoning for the same property. And then the applicant, it's the same applicant, they can speak. And then the people who are for or against are probably going to be for and against both of them. So we'll hear that, and then you'll need to vote separately on item 6 and item 6.1 separately. So
Thank you.
that, I'll start with the presentation for item number 6, which is the land use plan, LU 2022-1801, which is a land use plan on Canis Road at 12807 Canis Road on the south side of Canis. This is in between Adkins and Gamble Road, in a portion of Canis where there's currently a city-funded project widening the north side of Canis. It's not a full widening, it's just widening the north side of Canis Road. So the south side will still be unfinished when the project is completed, the city-funded project. Currently, the site is shown as suburban office on the plan and zoned 01. It has had office use on it in the past, and there are also outbuildings as well as a primary building on the site. This part of Canis was annexed to the city in around 1982. Most of the things along Canis Road in this part, in this section of Canis, were there at time of annexation. And so you have a lot of large lots, single family, with a scattering a few businesses along Canis Road. Since annexation, there have been some smaller office uses which have occurred along Canis Road, generally further to the west, either in existing structures that have been modified to become offices, or in a few have been new construction of offices. The land use plan currently shows neighborhood commercial immediately to the east of this property. This is the boundary line, basically, between the neighborhood commercial designation and suburban office. And that land is zoned C3. That land is currently undeveloped or doesn't have commercial development on it at this point. The suburban office is also shown north of that property on Canis Road, and that property is primarily also vacant and zoned 01. There is one office structure on that property currently. There's also suburban office shown on the land use plan immediately to the east of this property. That property, there are a couple of single-family houses, and there's also vacant property there. Again, this is a boundary line in between two land use designations, neighborhood commercial and suburban office. So really what we're talking about is whether or not to move the line. Excuse me, I'm not close enough to the mic, apparently. There we go.
Hey, Monty, are you showing, is anything being shown? I'm just seeing the planning commissioners on my grid.
No, nothing. Monty's not here tonight.
Would you like us to put that map? Would you like us to put that map up?
Usually, I'm trying to look at it on my phone because I'm using my computer to. Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, Walter, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay. Let me put the land use plan map up. I'm sorry about that.
I think the map's helpful.
Okay, so here's the land use plan map is now up on the board for you all, everybody to see. This amendment would move the land use designation line to the west, as you can see in the graphic. And it's not introducing a new land use. And we feel like that moving the line over to the west a short distance is not a problem from the land use plan standpoint, since there's already neighborhood commercial on the plan, backing up to residential just like this would be. So we're recommending approval of the land use plan change.
Now we want to hear a reading of 6.1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, item Z-4468-A, Ray Megan Properties Incorporated, owner of the 2.79 acre property located at 12807 Canis Road, is requesting that property be rezoned from 0-1 Quiet Office District to C-3 General Commercial District. The rezoning is proposed to allow for future commercial development. The site is located within an area along Canis Road, which is becoming more commercial in nature due to the widening of this minor arterial roadway. 01, C3, and POD zone properties are located to the northeast, northwest, and northern edge of the site. R2 zone residential developments border the southeast and west sides of the site. The city's future land use plan designates this property as SO Suburban Office. A land use plan amendment to C Commercial is a separate item on this agenda. Staff is supportive of the requested C3 zoning. Staff views the request as reasonable. The proposed C3 zoning will be consistent with other commercial zonings along Canis Road and will represent a continuation of the existing zoning pattern. The properties immediately to the east of this site are currently zoned C3. Staff believes the proposed C3 zoning will have no adverse impact on the general area. Staff recommends approval of the requested C3 zoning.
Thank you for that reading. So now applicant, Mr. White, I think you would like to speak and then defer. Is that what we heard earlier?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make a few points and then reserve our time to answer any of our neighbors' questions. You know, when you look at Canis, and it's for all the years it's been just a 2-lane road, and finally it's getting widened thanks to the city. We see it finally developing into something more than it is, and so again, it's 2.8 acres. Our plan shows a buffering along the residential areas to the south. Staff requested that we call that enhanced buffering, which means that if we have some thin areas in that buffer, that we'll add evergreen plantings to help with the screening. In all cases, we are backing up to backyards of existing residential houses, and so we're butting back to back, very much like if you think about Kavanaugh up in the Heights, where on Kavanaugh Street you've got commercial and office fronting the street, and directly behind it you've got residential. So it feels to us like this is a reasonable request. Again, the property just to our east is C3, so we'd be matching that zoning. And again, I think that the reason this property is taking some time to develop, it's just waited for the street improvements to occur, and it is it's an arterial street, and so we think it's a reasonable request. But yes, sir, we'd like to reserve our time, the rest of our time, and respond to the neighbors.
Okay. Can the people who are in the virtual chat raise their hands in opposition against 6 and 6.1 so that we can have them speak, please? Are there any members listening on the phone who need to dial *3, or any public comments that need to be made from the virtual chat room? If so, you need to raise your hand now. Well, this is the last ask. If there's anyone who wants to speak against items 6 and 6.1 on the regular agenda, now is the time to raise your hand or dial *3 if you're on the phone. Applicant, there seems to be no one who raised their hand now to speak against your application. So at this time, is there anything else you'd like to add or say?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, I can't think of anything. Again, I go back to staff. He's looked at this in great detail, and they believe it's appropriate, and we do as well.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions to the applicant?
I had one question. It's Benton. This is the staff. Is there any kind of noise reduction buffer that's required? I noticed in the fact that they're going right up against a cul-de-sac, a couple of houses. Is there any kind of noise reduction buffer that's required?
Commissioner Benton, yes. When like zoning abuts each other from a commercial to a residential, there is a land use buffer that's allowed. The applicant spoke about, and what we start talking about as far as staff goes is enhanced buffer, because the buffer that is in our zoning code just says it's supposed to be kept natural. But a lot of times if it's mature or older growth, even though it's green, the lower height, if you get above like a shrub or brush top scenario, specifically during winter times, may not give a full buffer effect. And so we spoke with the applicant, and they have agreed to that is a landscape, an enhanced buffer, that up to mid-height evergreen trees will be planted and dispersed as staff approval throughout that land use buffer that is applied per our ordinance.
Thank you.
Would any other commissioners like to ask the applicant a question or make a comment? Hearing none, I think it would be in order to have a motion for item 6.
I move for the approval of item LU 2022-18-01, including all staff comments and conditions.
Moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote?
Benton,
Yes.
Brooks, Hart,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hodge, Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas, Vickers, Vogel.
Yes.
Item 6 passes unanimously.
We have a motion for item 6.1.
I move for the approval of items Z4468-A, including all staff comments and conditions.
Moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote?
Benton,
Yes.
Brooks, Hart,
He has stepped away from his office, according to the screen.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hodge, Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas, Vickers,
Yes.
and Vogel.
Yes.
Item 6.1 also passed unanimously with one previous commissioner absent and the other 3 also absent.
Thank you.
6-0.
Okay. We will move to the final item on the agenda, item 8. Is the applicant present for this item? Applicant?
Yes, sir. This is Vernon.
Yes, sir. Before we read the item, seeing as how we have 6 active and 1, there's Commissioner Hart back, so we have 7 members. Would you like to continue with your application, or would you like to defer it at this time?
I'd like to continue, please.
Thank you. May we have a reading of item 8, please?
Item number 8, Z6049-C, C-Store PDC, 3600 Bowman Road. The applicant proposes to rezone 1.77 acres from O2 to PDC to develop a convenience store with gas pumps located at the southwest corner of Bowman Road and 36th Street. The project will consist of a 7,686 square foot building on the southern portion of the property and take access to Bowman Road. The proposed C-store is located along an arterial intersection, which includes heavy commercial traffic and business uses. The applicant is proposing to install a 3,360 square foot metal frame canopy. The canopy will be 59 feet from the C-store on the northern portion of the property. The fuel pump island will consist of 4 self-service pumps. Both structures will be located over 50 feet from all property lines. The applicant notes that the C-store will operate 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, and 2 bays located on the west side of the building will be utilized as retail rental units. A retail store in one of the bays will operate from 9 a.m. to midnight, closed on Sunday. Other businesses will be open from 7 a.m. to midnight, 7 days per week. Staff suggests C3 permitted uses for the 2 bays. Building heights for this project will not exceed 35 feet. The applicant proposes 38 parking spaces, which include 2 spaces per gas pump. Section 36-502 of the city's zoning ordinance typically requires 29 parking spaces. Staff feels the parking is sufficient to serve this use. Staff is supportive of the requested rezoning from O2 to PDC for a C-store located at 3600 Bowman Road. The proposed convenience store development will be located at a major intersection, A convenience store type commercial development is typical and appropriate development for this type of location among arterial roadways. Staff believes the proposed use will have no adverse impact on the surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of the requested PDC rezoning, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and F and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
Thank you. Applicant, as per precedent, you have the opportunity to speak first, or you can defer to the opposition. You have 20 minutes, and the opposition will also have 20 minutes. So would you like to speak or defer?
I'd like to make a few statements and then defer the rest of my time until after the neighbors out there speak, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay. I've only been contacted by one neighbor since we did our public notification, and that was another commercial business that was directly south of us, and their main concern was the location of our driveway at the southeast corner of the property. They were hoping to get it moved a little bit further or as far as possible from their driveway, which is along their north property line, which is our south property line. We've located the driveway where we have it because we think that is where the city wants us to have it, which is as far away from the intersection as possible. I told that property owner that we'd be happy to move our driveway as close to the intersection as the city would let us. And, you know, we want to be a good neighbor and get along with folks out there. You know, as you folks know, there's several apartment complexes that are very close to here. It's quite a distance to another C-store. I think this is a good use for this piece of property. Our plans include significant infrastructure improvements that we're going to dedicate to the city. Not only the widening of Bowman Road, but also an extension of 36th Street to the west, which is needed infrastructure out there to allow folks that own property west of us to gain better access to the city's infrastructure. That's all I kind of want to say on the front end, and I look forward to hearing the public's participation in their comments.
Thank you, applicant. May we have the opposition to item 8 raise their hands now, please? Okay. We have one person raise their hand. John Mason.
My name is John Mason, and my wife and I own Mason Company Realty, which is adjacent to the property on the south side, on the same side of the street of the convenience store proposed. And my largest concern is that the amount of traffic that goes from north to south, particularly along the rush hour, is incredibly, the volume is incredibly high. And the traffic backs up all the way during the rush hour from Bowman Road all the way back up Shackelford, all the way up to the interstate on the other side. So it's a very jammed traffic situation up there. My request was originally that a traffic light be installed at that intersection of Bowman Road and 36th and Bowman Road, where the proposal is. And the developer, I've had nice discussions with the developer and seems to be a very nice gentleman. Nevertheless, since I have a background in commercial real estate and also a graduate degree in real estate and planning from Florida International University, I know a little bit more about planning than a lot of people. The biggest concern here is that when I went to Arkansas, when I went to the traffic department for the city, and I requested traffic counts on this road, I was told that there were 8,800 cars per day that went down Bowman Road. And I don't know that was Arkansas Department of Transportation's material. The city did not have their own traffic counts. They utilized the Department of Transportation's. So if you're sitting right there in my parking lot today, you would see cars backed up in front of the parking lot on Bowman Road, all the way back up Canis, all the way, pardon me, I keep bringing Canis, all the way back up Bowman Road to the north. And you would see cars backed up all the way down 36th Street, all the way back to under the overpass up to Shackelford Road, and then cars backed up all the way from Shackelford Road back to the shopping center, which exits off of the Interstate 430. So that is a very highly volume traveled, concerned, congested area. Okay, and that is from the perspective of not having a traffic light there. That is a safety hazard. There's accidents waiting to happen. When cars pull out of the convenience store egress, or they pull out of my driveway, which is adjacent to it, that's going to be a problem. There's going to be a lot of traffic accidents there. If there's traffic accidents there, then there's going to be policemen, and then cars are going to be sitting there for hours. So that's my first concern. I would really like to see a traffic light be installed at that location. And I've been told, oh no, it has to have at least 20,000 cars to have a traffic light. In a general land use plan, the area of radius of 2 or 3 miles of this location, and all the cars are coming right from 36th Street into Bowman Road, and north on Bowman Road into the parking lot of the convenience store. it's just not, it's hazardous. However, if you could get a traffic light installed there, I believe that this project would work. I mean, I'm not against the use of a convenience store. It's just that there is so much traffic going through there that, you know, I have to, on that basis, you know, I have to object to the project. The second, at this time, I would like the staff to go back and look at the possibility of putting a traffic light there. That's the first thing. The only other thing that I want to bring up today is that the convenience store, I've spoken with the engineer and he's really a nice guy and he really wants to work with me on this. He's willing to move the ingress, egress of the egress of the convenience store. And there's only one egress. If you look at it, on Bowman Road, the other egress would be on Canis Road. Pardon me, I keep getting Canis in my head. The other egress is north, on the north side on 36th Street. Does everyone see that? The egress on the south side is adjacent to my property, is on Bowman Road. And he and I have had nice conversations and he's agreed to move, if the city will allow, and I would request that ingress, egress be moved north. That ingress or egress off of the convenience store, which as you can see is the gray area on the south side of the convenience store. It's only about 50 feet from my driveway. So if the ingress, or pardon me, the exit, let's call it the exit of the cars that go through the car wash, when they come out onto Bowman Road, they're going to be right in the line of traffic with my driveway. If we can move that 25 feet, if that would be my request, that egress or exit be moved 25 feet back to the north, so that these two driveways won't be right up next to each other. So there's two things I'm actually requesting. One, that a red light be installed, and two, that the ingress be moved 25 feet north. And so that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. I appreciate your comments. Applicant, you have 18 minutes to respond. So if you are unmuted, you can start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I really don't have anything to say that much about the driveway location. I think if you do look at our site plan, you can see that we have a greater than required green space between our store and 30 in our extension of 36th Street. I think we could probably achieve the 25 feet he's asking for by just simply sliding our whole site closer to that road. And like I said, I'll move that driveway as close to the intersection as city staff will let me. With regard to the traffic signal, I can only say what City of Little Rock staff has told me, which is that the traffic signal isn't warranted there. I'm not a traffic expert, but I have an engineer in my office with nearly 30 years of experience doing that sort of stuff, and she agrees that a traffic signal isn't warranted there. But again, that's kind of outside the realm of what we're trying to do here, and whether or not that's required is above my pay grade, I guess I would say. So I think that ends my comments. I would like to add one other thing, and I assume that Mr. Mason misspoke, but we don't have a car wash on this site. We're not planning to do that. I assume he meant to say convenience store, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear that we're not doing a car wash at this site.
I heard that as well and looked at the plans and saw no car wash either. So thank you for that clarification.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well,
defer to any questions.
commissioners, go ahead, commissioners.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Chair. This is Michael Vickers. This is more directed to the staff. They talking about, they got it from the Department of Transportation and they got those numbers. Is there any updated numbers that we can get from the city, or does the third party or applicant would pay for those services to get that information? Because I think that's something very important to know if being moving forward with this project. Because I'm very familiar with that road, and there is a lot of, cars that go down that road daily. And so my concern was just more about the people and the passengers that travel daily on Bowman Road, going to and fro. So I would just be curious from the staff to know, how is that done? Does the applicant or third party take care of that expense, or is that something done by the city that needs to be done?
Mr. Vickers, typically it depends on what the development is coming in. At times, staff has requested that a traffic study analysis is done on development to determine if or what type of improvements is needed in the roadway, but they are always projected counts, traffic counts in the AM and PM peak hours. The actual counts and whether a signal goes in is defined by warrant analysis. And so that is done by staff, but it is typically even done after the fact. If a development comes in, sometimes the development may not build out for years. Currently right now, I do not believe that there is a current traffic study for that intersection. They are correct with what they said. The counts that we get is from Arkansas DOT, and that is across several roadways throughout the city that we do that.
Thank you.
Do any other commissioners have a question or comment to the applicant? I want to say thank you to both the applicant and the opposition for being very neighborly and civil, and thank you for both understanding each other's position. Bowman Road is a unique road, and I wish it didn't have a curve, but that's a different issue altogether. So hearing nothing else from the commissioners, at this time I think it would be appropriate for a motion.
I move for the approval of item Z6049C, including all staff comments and conditions.
I second.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Benton,
Yes.
Brooks, Hart,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hodge, Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas, Vickers,
Yes.
and Vogel.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our agenda for today. We do have a little bit of new business I'd like to bring up if everybody has a few moments. Several years ago, we started a task of looking at short-term rentals and the zoning, and Mr. Malone and I think Craig Berry and Robin Rahman, who are former commissioners, worked on this. It's on the planning development website, the planning department's website, the proposed ordinance. There have been public comments about it. Staff's worked on it. I think at this time, my ask would be of staff to facilitate some further public engagement and come to the commission with the proposed ordinance on short-term rentals. So would there be a time that y'all would best recommend starting this process?
I would say we have to have at least 15 days of a notice, public notice going out of when we would like to have the meeting. We do have our draft that we believe is a final draft online that we've made the corrections to from all the meetings that we have. I would request that the planning commissioners, please review that if they have any additional comments so that we can revise that and then meet on that. If we do that now, we're looking at probably May. That way, if we have any comments back at our next meeting, which is April, we can have them and then have a vote and consideration in May to take to the board.
Great. So y'all will facilitate the notices.
Yes, we will. We've already have all the mailings that we did in the area, so we just need to find an area, but make sure we send it out in enough time for people to attend.
Okay, so at next meeting, y'all will formalize the date, or?
We will have formalized the date, or if, well, it would be real close to having it. It will probably be right after that meeting that we would have it if we're going to make the May vote.
Great. Thank you for taking that project on and getting us to where we are. I think that'll help a lot when we have items for short-term rentals. The other ask that I had was we facilitate the land use plan in the extraterritorial jurisdiction to the east, including the port, and to the southeast, including Arch, Dixon Road area intersection. I believe Commissioners Hart, Vickers, Haynes, and Brooks worked on this land use recommendation. I think the next step would be to start public engagement. And I think if we could start that, that would be a great step in the right direction. Yeah. So can we get some dates to start having public engagement on the land use changes in the ETJ?
Yes, as I was looking, Chair, at our dates and speaking with staff, again, this was a little bit longer. We will have to send out more notifications than for the short-term rental since it involves a larger area for extraterritorial jurisdiction in the southeast. I would anticipate that in around April, closer to the end of April, we would be able to accommodate those mailings, which means we would need to set up a public meeting closer to the end of May to attend. I can't commit to a specific date, but I can shoot for a range of the last 2 weeks of May to have a couple spots. I would think we need at least 2 areas in that southeast ETJ to have a public meeting at, and we need to find those locations to do that. So if it is okay with the commission, we can commit to finding locations and have meetings generally the second 2 weeks of May.
So at the next meeting, we can formalize the dates and the places?
Yes, we can start looking at places now and be ready to get the mailers since we're looking at that specific time frame and give an update in April to the commission.
Are all the commissioners okay with that? Does anyone have any questions regarding these items or this new
My only
business?
question is, where can we look this up? Where can we look at the plan?
I think you'll have to get it from Walter. Is that correct?
The land use plan amendment package, we can email that out to all the commissioners if you would like. We have it in a digital form, so there are a set of maps that show potential changes to the city's land use plan in the area described before, south and east of the city limits.
So expect an email soon that shows the work that's been done so far by the commission and the staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other new business that anyone would like to bring up? Hearing none, we will consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.